So today we're gonna show you how to do a 2-row move up. This is an 8-week grow out. So as you can see, this is very neat and clean. There's no knots, there's nothing fallen. So this is how it should look after 8 weeks. So we're gonna go through step by step and I'll explain how we do our move up process. So for this step, we're gonna need our scissors and we'll also need our pliers for the removal. So we're gonna start out only grabbing a piece of the thread with our scissors, and that is where we're gonna cut. It's very important to know the difference between a thread and hair because that would be a very bad mistake. So you're just gonna gently go through, and if it's a good outgrowth and you did a correct application, you should have no trouble. So now we took that first row out, and it's very important, especially when you're doing more than one row, to keep the hair separate and know exactly which hair goes where. So you don't want to mix up and put the top row on the bottom and vice versa. So make sure you lay it in a clear spot to know that's where your top row is, and then you'll put your bottom row in another spot and keep it very clean and neat. The next step is going to be to remove the beads. So you want to take your plier tool, and these holes here are meant to place right where the beads are. So what you want to do is put it into that first notch, and you simply just push down, and there the bead goes. Super easy. So you go through just in that first little notch, and they slide out. And you continue that around the whole head. The final step is going to be to simply just comb out any little loose pieces where those beads were. Look how healthy this hair is. This is how it should look every single time that you take the extensions out. There's no breakage, there's no damage. This hair looks healthier than it was when she previously came in. And this is when you know that extensions are doing exactly what they were intended to do. So now that we brushed the hair and we cleaned everything out, we're gonna resection where her hair previously was. And what we wanna do is make sure that there's no little baby hairs, make sure that it's a very clean section. So just going through and making this really tight. That way it's gonna be a very even and easy installation. So going through, making this tight. Now, we'll twist this hair and secure it out of the way like that. For the next part, we're gonna need our loop tool, a rat tail comb, and our pliers. So I like to always keep my loop tool on my pinky. That way it's an easy access as we make our way around the head. We know we're gonna be starting right here, and we're gonna be making a small rectangle section here. And these first ones are gonna be our anchor section, so I don't want it to be super big, about 1 inch long. Okay, I'm gonna set down my rat tail comb, and I'm gonna go in with my loop tool, looping that piece of hair through and putting that bead, and making sure that we're always keeping a clean section as we're working and angling that hair back. We're gonna go in with our pliers, making sure with your left hand pulling that hair tight, and then with your right hand securing that bead. That is our first section. We're gonna be working right under where our previous bead was, and we are gonna be making another rectangular section. We want to make sure that our bottom line is lining up with our previous section, so always keep that in mind. And again, we want our sections to be about 1/2 inch to 1 inch apart, and keeping it straight in the direction that we want the hair to be going. So looping that through the tool, pulling that bead through, putting our loop tool back on our pinky, and making sure that this is flat. By kind of rubbing your fingers through, that's making sure that we are getting any loose hairs, loose ends, and keeping it very straight and very tight. So again, with your left hand, be pulling that tight in the direction you want it to go, and with your right hand, securing that bead. So for this third piece, we are gonna be doing something a little different. We aren't able to pull all the hair through each bead around the whole head because the hair gets too thick. So at this point, we're gonna have to have a drop down piece of hair. So this is how we do it. We go through and we do our normal rectangular section, and this is where we would have it. But instead of putting our bead on this whole piece of hair, we're gonna actually take half of this hair from our previous section and we're gonna drop that hair down. So it's gonna make it so we'll be able to continue on our nice and neat row, but we aren't gonna have to be pulling that big chunk of hair through. So drop that piece down. Again, holding that tight and grabbing our loop tool, pulling that bead through, and gently pulling any of those little hairs, holding it tight with our left hand, and then pushing it as tight as we can on the right, and then securing that. And that's what our section should look like. Okay, we're gonna repeat our waterfall dropout until we reach the middle part of the head. So next we're gonna be placing our hair on our row. So we need to make sure that we're lining the hair up evenly right to the beginning part of our row, and we're gonna be kind of bricklaying each of our pieces and securing them with our little clips. So I'll go through that with you now. Okay, so right here is our first piece, and we wanna make sure that we line it all the way up with that row, and we're securing it. And every so often, we're gonna be securing it with a clip, and we wanna make sure it's always sitting right above that row. Now we're gonna be doing our second piece. Again, lining it up right to that starting point, making sure that there's no little hairs getting in the way. And you can reuse the same clip as you make your way around the head. And now we just repeat that with our last two wefts. Okay, at this point we are gonna thread our needle. We wanna make sure that we have enough string to go around the whole head. So what I like to do is pull an arm's length out, and I like to do that 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And that way you know you're gonna have enough string to wrap around the whole head. So you're gonna cut that with your scissors, and you're gonna take your needle, you're gonna thread that through, and then you're gonna meet the 2 ends together, and you're gonna double knot it. So knot 1, and then knot 2, should look like that. We are gonna now start sewing. So I like to always start behind the second bead, and you're not gonna go on the bead, you're gonna go right behind it, and you're just gonna put your needle through, and you're gonna go through the open hole in your string, and you're gonna then carry that all the way up to the top. And just always be bringing the string up to the top, because that's gonna secure it and keep your lines really neat. Okay, now we're gonna go to the other side of the bead, and we're gonna start our normal sewing. So you're gonna go through the open hole here, and again, pulling that string up. You're gonna go a little bit over, poke it through, and you're just gonna open up this hole, and that is where you're gonna bring the needle through. And we continue that until we reach the end. So a lot of people struggle with keeping their corners really tight. We figured out a way to have a very tight and seamless corner. So what we like to do is called the Silvie X. So we're right here at the end of our row. So I like to do my last normal stitch, and then we're gonna come here and we're creating a pattern that is the shape of an X. So we're gonna come in from right to left at an angle, like we are starting the X. And we are going to be pulling this tight in that direction. So that is the first part of our X right there. And then we are going to be coming on the opposite side and finishing off that X. And what this does is it really tightens those corners down and creates a very strong base. So as the hair grows out, they won't be flaps. So here is how we finish off then, the X going that way. And as you can see, it's a very tight and those corners are gonna lay flat for you. And then we are just gonna continue our sewing pattern, always going in the open loop. And we're gonna continue that until we reach the other side of the head. So now we finished stitching all the way around. I did the Silvie X on this side, and now we're gonna be finishing off our row. So I wanna just show you real quick how we do that. So you just bring your needle through like normal, and instead of just bringing it up at this point, you're gonna take your 2 fingers and you're gonna twist, and then you're gonna put your needle through this hole. And again, always kind of focusing things going up. Where you have your loop here, you're gonna push it over to the right, and then while pulling the string up on this side, and that is gonna be a double knot right there. So you just wanna repeat that twice. So again, through the hole, once you get to this point, twist, go through the hole, and then this side you're gonna be pulling the tension over to the right, and then this one you're gonna be going up until you meet it right there where it's at. So you have your 2 knots here. Then you wanna take your scissors, cut the string, leave yourself enough room to do a knot. So you're just gonna do a knot right here. 1, 2, 3 for good measure. And then you want to cut all the way up to the top there. And then you want to come around on the other side and make sure that there isn't any extra string sticking out, and it doesn't look like there is. So then you are done with your move up. And you just repeat this process then for the underneath one. And just remember, when you are sectioning out your bottom move up row, you want to make sure that you're leaving enough room in between so you won't be sewing onto the other row, and that the client will be comfortable enough to wear their hair up, and always leaving enough room around the hairline as well. But that's how you do a 2-row move up.